talking. We had the coaches poll last week, and now we have the AP poll this week. Looking at Miami here with the preseason AP poll. Jaden, Miami, right there at 10, just right where they were. Clemson a little bit higher, Notre Dame a little bit lower, as some other notable pieces close by. What any takeaways from this?
Yeah, the Clemson love, I'm okay with it. I had 3 ACC teams. I would say that makes sense. I like Miami at 10. Honestly, I was a little when I saw the coaches poll at 10, I was like, could they drop a little bit in the preseason AP poll? Them staying at 10, I love it. I love the love that they're giving us. I think they notice as well that Miami's more balanced this year. That with Beck and with the tools they have around them, with the revamped defense and a pretty good schedule. I think Miami has a chance to kind of like shock the world and do what be a good team. I think like that stays in that top 10. And this is Miami's first official top 10 appearance since 2018. 2018 they were 8th. So that's I love that love. And then you're looking at it from a schedule standpoint, and you're seeing right away that Miami's got 3 top 16 opponents right there. Notre
Yep.
Dame at 6, UF at 15, SMU at 16, and in the event of a potential AC championship game, Clemson at 4. That's 4. Miami wins. I keep saying this that if Miami wins maybe 2 of those 3 games, they're in a pretty clear spot to make the CFP or make the ACC championship game pretty quick, pretty easily.
Yeah, and even they have those games, but there's some other teams even getting votes here that Miami's going to play.
Yes.
Louisville, FSU in there, Pitt in there, kind of some other teams to kind of look out for in terms of teams that the college football landscape's looking at in terms of being fighting with Miami throughout the season. Also, as always, got to shout out Falconer, quick early on super sticker for $1.99. Appreciate it as always. We'll get to the helicopters later, but for now, sticking on topic. Yeah, but you like it. I think we were a little bit concerned if like the AP poll would look down on Miami a little bit more than the coaches poll did, but to have them right there at 10 is a pretty good start to the pretty good start to the season. I believe Miami ended 18th at the end of the year, so you look at how there's a lot more respect to the balance on this team now going
Mhm.
into this season, even with Cam Ward departing, even with the offense kind of reshaping itself a lot. It's a good place to start, especially when you look at the team that they're surrounded by. It's like early on, the college football world sees Miami as a team that could definitely make a playoff push.
Yeah, and one thing I love a lot is that if Miami wins, some of these really good games against Notre Dame or against UF, and you can kind of look at it to the end of the season, say that Mario and Co won 2 top 15 games because these are 2 teams that started the season in top 15. That's pretty good, at least in terms of the way that you want to look at it from like a standpoint. If Miami wins these games, these are some tough games. These are the games you want to play, the games that the fan base is like looking at every week and saying we got to win these games. We've been talking smack to these teams all week. We got to beat them. And honestly, as much as I think Notre Dame at 6 makes sense, second, they just lost in the national championship game, all that. They do have a lot. I would argue they might have a little more concern than Miami does. If you've been following along with what Notre Dame's got going on, that they're in a QB battle, a pretty big QB battle. CJ Card is competing with I can't remember his name, and they're going back and forth. And they've been going back and forth, and they're unsure who's going to be the starting quarterback week 1. That's already gives Miami a little bit of an advantage, I would say. It helps Miami out a little bit more that Miami looks more certain than Notre Dame, and that whoever is starting for Notre Dame has to enter into a really hostile environment week 1 at quarterback. That's not an
Mhm.
easy thing to do.
Yeah, to follow up, Kenny Minchie's the other guy in the
Yes,
QB
yes.
battle. Yeah, but like I think that is something to. We'll talk about the schedule as the weeks go on as we get closer to Notre Dame and kind of we'll tap in more to what's going on with this Notre Dame QB battle. But we talk about it every week. Is that if this defense is like a dramatic step better, which I think a lot of people think, and I think we think it'll be, that makes it a lot better given the fact that Notre Dame does not know what QB they're playing week 1 as it looks like right now, and if they do, CJ Carr is a guy who has no considerable experience, and so there's a lot of moving parts for Notre Dame, especially a tough task for a team to go in with a guy getting his first reps at the highest level on a primetime game to start the season. Um, which I think could be a little bit of concerns. Obviously, you got to give Notre Dame a respect at number 6,
Of course, of course.
starting off the season because they were just in the national championship. But it looks like a tougher match than it might end up being for Miami. Potentially, if their quarterback, if they actually do have a quarterback issue, if CJ Carr or Kenny Minchie aren't necessarily ready to start week 1, and this defense is as much better as we all think it's going to be, then it's a really good way to start your season for Miami, where you take down a number 6 opponent that might not necessarily be a number 6 caliber opponent to start off the season, and then that's just going to, regardless, you have that notch on your belt as the season continues to progress. We'll go through the schedule, but then you go to Florida, you play Florida, SMU, take on those high level teams in the top 20, in the top 25. Some other teams getting votes, as we talked about. I think there's a lot to look forward to for Miami this season.
Yeah, absolutely. This is, I mean, it's kind of been the biggest, kind of one of the things that we've been talking about a lot of, is this Mario Cristobal's best chance to, lead a team to the ACC championship? And I'd argue it is. I think it is. And I only think it is because of the way that Miami has the schedule set up, the roster that he has. If he had this level, if he had this defense, or he had some guys in the 2023 defense on last year's defense, it would have, that team goes to the CFP pretty easily. And you kinda look at them like, all right, well, this season he's got a better defense. The offense got a little bit worse. All right. I still think that this is probably the best team he's coached or he's gonna have at Miami. And it's a team that you look at and you're like, all right, well, they got to do something. They like two loss season probably has to be the minimum. Probably has to be like the worst case scenario for the team if you want to call it somewhat of a successful season.
Yeah, I completely agree. Um, like I said like a few times, we'll get into the schedule a little bit later on, but I think the schedule might be harder than it was last year, but I think because of the balance this team might have and some of the regression that you might see from a team like SMU or Notre Dame, that it could end up being favorable for Miami in different spots, and I think it could work. I think it could work a lot to Miami's favor. As the season progresses and as this team progresses, especially having a team like SMU later on in the season. I think is really important for Miami, not necessarily having to worry about a team like that, that just contended for the ACC championship, like early on in the season when the team might be going through some changes. Um, but yeah, overall, I think it's definitely Cristobal's best chance so far, at least.
Yeah.
You could, I think it'll be tough. I think it's tough just because it's hard to just take out of your mind the fact that Cam Ward was the QB last year, and like, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to predict Carson Beck's going to be even anywhere near what Cam Ward was last year, but I think given the balance on this team, it might be his best chance so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the last thing I want to just to touch on the AP poll. I mean, in a college football sense, week 1, unbelievable.
Oh yeah,
Texas, Ohio State, 1 versus 3. Clemson, LSU, 4 versus 9. And then to cap it off, 6v10 Notre Dame, Miami. You can't beat that. That's
it's
unbelievable.
such an electric first weekend. Do you know where kickoff's going to be or college football game day is going to be? Do we have
Week
they?
week 1 is in I think it's in whoever's hosting Texas, Ohio State. That's
Okay,
week
gotcha.
1.
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's going to
then
be electric to watch.
yeah,
An electric day in college football, just between all those crazy matchups. Really stacked week 1 slate, which you got. As a football fan, you gotta love. You gotta
you
love
gotta
that.
love it. It feels like, I mean, this sport is at its peak right now in terms of entertainment with the stuff that you have right here. Like it's incredible. I think that we're looking at an incredible slate of games coming up soon. Can't wait.
100% can't wait for it. And just 20 days, college football is
Wow.
finally back,
Wow.
right under 3 weeks. And it's going to be fun to see Miami.